Compassion is defined in two parts: the concern for the misfortune and suffering of others. And once you're confronted with it, you are then motivated to relieve their suffering. My compassion goes out to those I affectionately call my OGs, the elders of our community. I initially set out to relieve their suffering physically as a doctor of physical therapy, but quickly learned that their biggest concerns were becoming burdens to their family and community, which was causing them to shrink. These hidden figures, walking legends, and the reason we walk in greatness and opportunity of today, yet we ignore them at the family function. We avoid their mean faces and redundant stories. We rush past them in the grocery store, and we honk our horns for them to move out of our way as they drift further and further into ancestry. Let me tell you about two of my fave OGs who made a huge impact on the person you see standing before you today. My name is Brandi Powell. I am a doctor of physical therapy, a minister, a doula, a podcaster, an author, a grief course content creator, a homeowner, and an amazing village member, just to name a few. I saw my grandmommy, Helen Powell, build a safe haven for her family on Caldwell in the city of Compton. You see, my grandparents were a part of the second migration of Blacks from the South to the North and West. They picked up from Tennessee, headed to Los Angeles, where they moved in with family, purchased their first home in Watts City, where they raised their children, and their second home in the city of Compton. My grandpa died before I was born, but my grandmommy was so proud of what they had built. Some of my fave components were the tetherball and the tetherball competitions, the hopscotch, all of the grandkids' names spray painted across the perimeter of the concrete, the loquat tree, and the little boy we called Satchmo next door. Please don't ask. In this home, we gathered to eat just because, to argue, to celebrate, and everything in between. My deep, deep, deep love for Compton was birthed in that home. Unfortunately, my grandmommy passed when I was headed into the 6th grade. So much of her story I didn't get a chance to hear firsthand. And to be honest, I was just too young to even care. But my other OG, my granny, Lucinda Anderson, I had more time with. And I was able to hear from her story firsthand. When I first got my license, I was given the task of taking her to go vote. It seemed easy enough, but she had to be at every single election. No, y'all don't understand. It could have been one proposition on that ballot, and she needed to be there first thing in the morning and first in line. As a teenager who didn't enjoy waking up early, I suggested to her mail-in ballots. The way she looked at me, you would have thought I cursed at her or something. I was so frustrated. So much about her frustrated me initially, if I'm being honest. I went on to become a part of her caregiving team. And anyone who has been in that position understands the balancing act from balancing their schedule with your schedule and making sure that they feel seen and that you take care of your self-care. I remember needing to kill 2 birds with one stone. She had a dialysis appointment, and I needed to go pick up some letters of recommendation from King Drew Medical Magnet of Medicine and Science High School. So I went to pick her up. I didn't share with her that we had a stop to make because, like I said earlier, I wanted to preserve my peace for 15 minutes. We pulled up to King Drew. I hopped out. It took me all of 5 minutes, got back in the car, and then we go to her appointment. She's fuming, like, Heated. I turned the gospel music up and we're off to our appointment. We arrive at the appointment and I notice we're here a couple minutes ahead of time. So I take the opportunity to let her know that, see, Granny, I got you here on time. She looked at me. She looked straight ahead. So I was like, okay, maybe she didn't hear me. Granny, I told you, I got you. She looked at me. She looked back. And then she looked at me again. And she said, to be on time is in fact to be late. Girl, just bust my little bubble. And don't get me started on the proper way of making the bed or the proper way of doing anything. At this point, we needed to have a heart to heart because something had to give. It was me. I gave. You see, I learned that my granny went from not being able to vote because she was Black to seeing the first Black president, President Barack Obama, elected within her lifetime. And she shared the difficulties she faced attempting to vote in the South. My grandpa died and left her to be a widow and to raise their two teenage children. But she womaned up. She went from cleaning homes to studying at night to becoming a nurse. After hearing these stories and so many others, she easily became my favorite person. I wanted her at everything I accomplished because I wanted her to see that what she did was never in vain. You know that frustration I talked about earlier? It turned into grace. I vote today not just because of my ancestors, but because my granny fought for me too. I stand boldly in my authentic self because I realized that I was a talkative, ambitious, goofy little girl. Both of my grandmothers never had the opportunity nor the permission to be. And you can ask any one of my past physical therapy students, to be on time is in fact to be late. So don't do it. I charge us all. And yes, I include myself because there are some OGs that run me low. But I charge us all to have a little more compassion as they are navigating the loss of lovers, family, friends, function, identity, independence, even hair, and learn that they have lived fascinating lives and loved and survived through some of the hardest times. As a culture, we are so fascinated with being woke and awareness, yet we neglect the firsthand accounts sitting right underneath our noses. They are the cheat code. It is said that information exchange from one generation to the next allows the receiver of that information to become experts amongst their peers. So not only do I want you guys to glean from your OGs and learn from their stories, but I also want to advise you to pour into them. Teach them a TikTok dance or how to take a proper selfie. Teach them the new technology and how to use their Obama phones. Share with them how we fight injustices today. Because of our OGs, we have the permission and the audacity to be all the things. So to that I say, thank you. My ode to the ode.